All right. Greetings and peace, everyone. Welcome to the Committed Relationships and Spiritual Activity YouTube show, where I share various information. Well, I won't just say I share, because I hopefully plan on having more individuals here sharing relationship, personal development, and spiritual information here on this channel at some point. So that's a variety. So it's more than just relationship information too. So I'm your host, Neo, and I'm here to share some info with the people. Now, this one right here, I'm going to share a little bit more information about myself, because this is one thing that I feel I want people to really realize the importance of being transparent, depending on what your agenda is. For me, sharing relationship information and giving relationship advice based off of my close examination of relationships throughout my years of studying relationships and studying it. And you study it any way you want, really, because there's no one way to study relationships, and society doesn't teach us relationships the proper way. Is just fragments of relationships. That's why in TV shows, movies, and magazines, there's no one all be all, one source area to get all your relationship information. That's one thing I've learned throughout my years of studying relationships, is that there's no one place. And parents don't teach relationships. Predominantly, they don't, because they don't know what they're doing. And that's why you see a lot of people's parents, their relationship is dysfunctional, if they even have a relationship right now. So once I realized that about my parents, I was like, okay, no, I got to learn this, relationships and life, on my own. That's exactly what I did. And I'm still learning even more. And I avoid saying that my information is the end all be all. Nope. Because I go around YouTube and a variety of other places learning from other people. So keep that in mind for yourself. And also when you're listening to my information, keep that in mind that relationship information is fragmented all over the place. So you have to go to a variety of places and utilize the information for yourself and analyze it, then utilize it for yourself from a variety of sources. So never allow yourself to sit there, get a certain piece of information topic from one individual as that's your end all be all. If there's other individuals that's giving information on the same topic, then go to them also, because they might have pieces of information. No, they will have pieces of information that you can't get from other places, or did not get from other places. So I want to speak about being single in modern day society. I think I might have said something about this in one of my other recordings briefly. However, I want to go into more detail, and I'm still want to keep this under 10 minutes as close as possible. But now, throughout my years of studying relationships, I realized that there is a lot of information that is unconscious to the average person, starting with the mind and the ego. That ego, I have learned that ego is the number one, if not number one, the top reason why there's so many dysfunctional relationships. People being unconscious of their ego and they're not regulating their own ego. That is what causes them to make so many mistakes and to have so much disruptive behavior within their relationships in general, but especially their committed relationships. And the ego will cause people to do so many disruptive things, jumping social boundaries unnecessarily and making illogical assumptions within their social engagements. And with me seeing that and me looking at myself and what I did in my past relationships, friendships, and also committed relationships, and realizing that I was completely under the control of my ego, and now getting outside of it and really understanding the ego and understanding the mind, I'm like, yo, this is some serious information that people have to understand, because that is what's causing their dysfunction within their relationships, is the lack of understanding of their ego and their mind. And with me seeing what's going on and seeing how people are ego zombies, they're unconscious. They think they're conscious, which I used to think that I was conscious. But once I actually did become conscious, being able to be aware in the moment of what's going on, being able to make the wise decisions consciously in manual mode rather than by default. The ego operates by default, and it's emotional. It's based off of it makes decisions based off of emotions, and it responds from an emotional standpoint. That's why you see a lot of emotional people. They're whining when they don't get their way. That's their ego. They're operating from their ego. Most individuals, they operate from their ego without realizing it, rather than their higher consciousness. The higher consciousness is the consciousness that people need to make decisions from, rather than their ego, including giving advice from their higher consciousness rather than their ego. As I say in some of my videos, that a lot of people here on YouTube and a lot of other places, they're giving advice from their ego, and you have to learn the difference. And with me seeing what's going on with people nowadays, I really see that there's a lot of chaos. And me personally, I rather avoid the chaos rather than having to deal with it. That's why I choose to be single. Besides choosing to be single so that I can further enhance myself. So that's why I work so much on my personal development to enhance my mind, so that I can be the reliable person for people to come to for emotional and psychological help, especially when I'm in a committed relationship with a woman. Because being a man, you have to be the strong, psychologically strong individual for your woman, and especially if you decide to have a family, to start your own family. You have to be strong psychologically and emotionally. You can't be psychologically and emotionally broken. No, that's a big no-no as a man. That's why I recommend people to be psychologically prepared before entering relationships. But especially committed relationships, committed romantic relationships, whatever you want to call them. But there's a lot of people who lack psychological preparation for a committed relationship. And me studying this and really improving myself and seeing what's going on, and after my low level of knowledge of the ego and the mind and my immaturity that I used to have, and looking back on it, I'm like, yo, I was really fucked up psychologically and even emotionally. And I had to raise myself up because there was nobody else that was going to do it. Once I realized that there was nobody else going to do it, I just strapped up my boots and just started putting in the work. So now I can think much more clearer, and I know that there's my spiritual guidance comes from inside of myself. So I really don't have to read too many books, which I did used to read books that got me started on this relationship journey, relationship studies journey, and personal development journey. However, once I developed my independent mind to be a free thinker, then I don't read books as much as I used to, which I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, wrong with reading books, but I'm just saying you get to a point where you realize, like, hey, this information is just coming up from inside myself, and I just know things. But I do read every so often, especially the Psychology Today that is where some information comes from too. My information comes from also. It helps me think differently on a much more mature level. I like that too. Psychology Today magazine. That's cool. So you have a lot of people with so much dysfunctional minds here in world societies. And the dysfunctional minds make this. All right, here's what I say. Dysfunctional minds make dysfunctional decisions. A person with a dysfunctional mind will make dysfunctional decisions. A person with a toxic mind more than likely will have toxic relationships. That's what I want to say. So with me understanding psychology, understanding greatly the mind and how it functions and what it causes people to do, because the mind is responsible for the behavior of individuals, and also knowing that most people lack personal development and they lack taking on accountability of their personal development, it makes me realize, like, why the hell do I want to be in relationships with toxic people who have toxic minds? It does not make sense. Not saying that I'm Mr. God, Mr. Goody Two Shoes, because that's one thing I want to avoid, because the ego gets people to believe that they are Mr. or Mrs. Goody Two Shoes and that they're better than everybody. Because, I mean, that's the trap of the ego. That's the ego trap, one of the many ego traps. So you don't want to allow yourself to think that you're that type of individual. However, it is important to focus largely on your own personal development so that you can be prepared for a relationship and you know what to do even during times of adversity. Because times of adversity, those are the clutch moments for you to either come through and improve the situation and resolve the issue, or to add to the destruction of the issue. And a toxic, dysfunctional mind will add to the destruction of the issue. I mean, the disruption of the relationship and make the situation worse. So you got to be very cautious with the type of people you enter relationships with in general, and know what you're doing, and know how to choose the correct people, and know how to perceive. And you actually perceiving the correct people to be in a relationship with, and you're perceiving the people who are the wrong people for you to get in relationships with, so that you can avoid those people. So it's not worth these days to rush to be in a relationship with people in general, regardless if it be a business relationship or a committed relationship, and especially having children with these people nowadays, because there's a lot of people who have toxic minds. So for me, I do my best to remain in solitude and only associate with certain people, and I keep a lot of people at a distance so that I can avoid their toxic energy and toxic minds from influencing me in any way, shape, or form, so that I can still keep my own sanity, my inner peace, and my higher consciousness active, and not allow myself to go back into my ego mode, because that ego mode is not a good mode to be in for long. And I'm like, and I can see that I go in and out of it throughout the day, and I'm glad that I'm conscious of it so that I can get back into my higher consciousness and make better decisions. So I even keep a safe distance from my family members, because I have a lot of family members that have toxic minds, and they're unconscious of their ego mode that they're in. So they're just shooting off the hip, is what I call it. Shooting off the hip, where they're just responding emotionally off of their emotions. And that's exactly what the ego does. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end this right here. My email address is in the description section. Same with all of my other links in the description section. Definitely like, comment, and share this video and any of my previous videos, recordings. Definitely go back and check those out. And also, if you would like future information regarding relationships, personal development, and spirituality, you can get it here. So you subscribe, click that subscribe button, and make sure you click the bell button so that you can get email updates. All right, till next time.